Do you watch anime? If so, I got some good news for you. If not, well, here's where you can start, because they got anime coming out this spring, same as any other season. Now, there's a lot of interest with anime watches for seasonal anime. Some of these people would say that it's the foundation for the anime community. Other people, maybe unrelated, would want me to start skydiving directly into the Space Needle with no parachute just for thinking of that sentence. But regardless of your thoughts on seasonal anime, they're always the new thing, hot off the presses, the hot topic for discussion. So of course, there's a lot of exposure for these anime if your circle has any kind of at least level 2 anime familiarity. This spring is no exception with a whopping 50 anime to go through. Now, I'll be straight up with you, I'm not watching most of that shit, and I really don't expect you to do that either. That might be why you're here, because you're trying to find that diamond in the rough that you want to watch the second it drops. And the constant deluge of random-ass anime bodes poorly for finding these good shows, considering the non-stop churn of one-and-done anime and the continuous cycle of the 3 seasonal genres that just never fucking die. Brainless shonen, bait for lonely dudes that stack no paper and get no bitches, and, of course, reincarnation wish fulfillment. These genres are basically what your average 53-year-old Midwest father thinks anime is, and is not something that most people, even the genre fans, would consider good. But despite that, this season particularly, there is some heat on the way. I've done some cheating and read ahead, so now I'm here to show you that using just these 3 genres, I'm gonna find you 3 good-ass shows to watch this April. Now, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I stretched the fuck out of the definition of trashy seasonal anime just so I had an excuse to talk about this stuff. But I guarantee you, this is the one. I swear to God, this is the one. What am I talking about? Tengoku Daimakyou, which is pretty thoughtful, but also technically not a shonen. It's a seinen, which is like shonen but for adults basically, though shonen's like for 14-year-olds, but it doesn't really matter. What matters is that it's getting animated this season, and I've read enough of it to recommend it to you. Now, this is one of those manga that I've read on a complete whim, and let me tell you, oh my god, that shit has you hooked reading every single page. I could not take my eyes off this manga for a single goddamn second. I went to sleep reading this manga. I'd wake up, brush my teeth reading this manga, and then I'd get in my car and drive reading this manga. I could not fucking stop. It's the kind of story you just cannot put down no matter what. Now, what's the story about? That's a great question. Let me answer it right now. The show is focused on 2 parallel storylines. There's one, Tokyo, living in a heaven facility where kids are in a sanitized and protected environment, closed off from the horrible outside world where monsters are. Kinda kid dystopia, if you get what I mean. And on the other side of the wall, you have Maru and Kiruko, who inhabit this post-apocalyptic hell world outside those same walls. And building off those premises, the worlds around these storylines really helps the show a lot, and that's where I think the show makes a lot of its money, because both the creepy Big Brother-ish school setting and the remains of post-apocalyptic Japan setting are showcased throughout the manga, and both these settings are different kinds of fucked up, and the show does not shy away from showing it in various different ways. But if you have the stomach for that kind of stuff, then by all means, jump right on the bandwagon right with me, because this is the potential to not only be anime of the season, but anime of the year. That's how good I'm feeling about it. Both the characters and the world are phenomenal, and the stories they tell with each chapter just hit you right there, no matter how much bearing each event actually has in the overarching plot, because everything just feels important. The story is about people and how they affect each other, and how people's environments affect that. But if all that sounds a little too sappy to base an entire story around, don't worry, they got you covered with some crazy ass fights too. Because there's some reasons why Japan is post-apocalyptic, and the way these kids had to maneuver around one of these reasons, namely monsters that can split people's heads open in half with a tentacle, is just good shit all around. And besides just being a good show, it's also perfect for dealing with certain types of people. This really is the stuff of video essayists and pretentious blowhards, everything in between. So if you're friends with or exist as one of those, please do enjoy, because in the best future, this shit is gonna be like crack to them. I'm talking people pretending to watch it because they know it makes them look cool. I'm talking video essays being posted 10 years from now, still talking about some random subplot. I'm talking your children putting this shit on their mal pages in 25 years just to look good. That's how good I feel about the series' potential, if it lives up to it. Now, I could go on and on about the reasons why I like the show, but honestly, I don't really feel like editing that, so here's a short list instead. Monsters are cool as fuck. Figuring out mysteries while reading feels awesome. I just like Kiruko, she's an awesome character. The concept of Hiruko is fucking insane once you get into it. It's got a sense of humor. There's a gun called the Murder Beam. The pages of backgrounds with no text give so much feel to the environment. The fights use brains against the crazy threats. The monsters look cool as fuck. But maybe it needs something shittier, not anime of the year level. Well, don't worry about that. Put that McDonald's down. I'm gonna show you the real junk food around here.
The alpha takes priority over the feature. The alpha takes priority over everything. Do you not know how that works?
The feature is telling the alpha to sit in the seat right now.
And the alpha doesn't have to listen to what the feature says.
Now, just like that last segment, the title card is lying to you. However, not entirely. This still has the hallmarks of the genre, but this time we're using it to serve a greater purpose. I gotta get you something different, something that might actually threaten to give you more of a feeling than vague sadness after you've done the first episode. If you're gonna watch dog shit, you're gonna watch the best dog shit coming out this season. And that this season is Yuusha ga Shinda, The Hero is Dead. This is quite possibly the best complete trash manga I've ever read, and I say that 100% as a compliment, because sometimes you don't need all the fancy main dishes with the most exquisite gold leaf. Yeah, sure, it might technically be the best, but who really wants it every single meal? Sometimes you just want to walk into a hole in the wall and mug a burger for the same price you get cigarettes. And that's the type of story that this anime is gonna tell. The basic premise of the show is the hero dies. And then, through the miracle of dark magic, this random asshole soul is necromanced into the hero's body by a small girl that has his life in her hands. Using his existence as a hostage, she pushes him to go on a world-saving journey. Now, this journey is fraught with numerous perils, and number one of these is our buddy Scott here is completely and utterly fraudulent. Despite having the hero's body, he's got none of the magical juice that runs it, and the super magical equipment he does have from the hero just does not like him at all. But the guy isn't irredeemable trash, and he's got enough dog in him to make everything a fight. Because despite his weaknesses, he's still one crafty son of a bitch that uses everything he can, often because it's literally the only option he has. If I had to draw a parallel for you, it'd be like Kazuma from Konosuba, except Kazuma is stuck in It's Always Sunny in MMORPG land. Scott here actually has to go through a plot with stakes and danger. Now, maybe Konosuba isn't the best example to pit this against, because, you know, it's trying to be anime, It's Always Sunny. But you look at any other anime light novel adaptation, and you start to get wowed. That's the craziest part of this manga and the craziest part of this show. I know how fucking stupid this sounds to someone that isn't familiar with seasonal anime adaptations of light novels, but there's actual plot and narrative progression in this series. It's fucking mind-blowing. It's already dusting like 90% of its contemporaries, but also it's actually good. I'm telling you, man, it's like getting a diamond airdrop to you in a golden treasure chest while walking into a manure pit. That's how I felt. Now look, let me just briefly get into it. You get to see Scott go from a genuine dickhead, a fucking loser, a goddamn bum, an absolute travesty of a human being, to the fucking GOAT. My MC, the absolute Kino goated peak protagonist. He goes through the trials and tribulations and fucking earns that shit piece by piece. Nothing gifted. You watch this guy develop over the long haul into an actual fucking superhero. But at the same time, they don't take away Sean from any of the surrounding characters just so he can take it. Every single character has their goddamn role. It's the fucking GOAT. Like, something that gets shocking. The girls are actually useful and can kill things themselves. Now, granted, you gotta remember what's in this show's DNA. You know, the whole fan service bits and all. You gotta remember that's what happens to these girls, except they use this shit as actual fucking superpowers. I'm so serious right now. It's not even like there's a whole power system either. They got a full established real system. On top of this fucking bullshit, there's absolutely no reason why a show with all the ingredients that it has should cook up like this when the entire genealogy of the show is a blight to our societal birth rate year after year, except the only difference is this author is, I guess, the greatest writer of our modern times for some reason. Now, dialing down the gas a bit, it's just a good story with a good setup that also happens to not take itself too seriously and be pretty funny while doing that. But when you compare it to other fantasy setting seasonal anime, it feels like nothing short of a miracle that it even exists. And actually, when I was reading this, I was certain it would never get animated just because the story happens to not actually make the main character a guy that sleepwalks through the plot because hardship is bad for business or something. But against all odds, they're putting that shit on. So I'm putting you on to watch a show that I think is better than meets the eye by cooking up something greater than the sum of its parts. Now, with that show in the rearview mirror, let's continue the wish fulfillment odyssey.
Pointing toward the heavens, we can only ask or wonder that he is asking some departed relative for forgiveness for this atrocious performance.
Reincarnation is a big theme you see over the course of a lot of anime. There's an entire genre just based on reincarnating in different worlds, and that shit is pretty popular. But there's something I got gripes with in this reincarnation genre, and that's that there's really no point to the reincarnation. The only reason it ever happens is because they need a reason for this guy to not even have the most basic information about the world, while also having an excuse to give him demigod powers. Really, it's just an excuse to put in an audience stand-in and go like, see? This could happen to you. Walk into incoming traffic right the fuck now. And, I don't know about you, but I think I got bored of that setup after like the third time I saw it lead into a fantasy world again. But just when I was languishing in the desert, stretching and crying and pleading and looking for anything that would be remotely entertaining, I came across Oshi no Ko. To give you a quick synopsis with as little spoilers as I possibly can, the plot starts when a gynecologist out in the sticks suddenly now has to deal with his favorite idol, Ai Hoshino, showing up a day after going on leave for health reasons. But she's not pulling a Ben Simmons. She comes out here because she is 20 weeks into a pregnancy that she has told nobody about. And as an idol in an industry where being seen with another man is scandal enough for all involved to issue a formal apology because parasocial relationships make more money for the company than the mere happiness of their workers, this constitutes somewhat of a scandal, a problem for the company. But through the beautiful magic of friendship and idol energy, they stick together through thick and thin, through months of emotional turmoil, trying to discover what being an idol really means and a journey of self-discovery. After all that, Ai delivers her twins healthy and happy. Unfortunately, the gynecologist accompanying her fucking died, because remember about those parasocial relationships? And those baby twins? He is now one of them, accompanied by the other twin, yet another reincarnation, but this time of a girl obsessed with idols. Now, after all that happens, I don't want to spoil too much, so I'm going to stay vague now, but you start to see all these characters struggle to make their way into the world of showbiz now. The world of showbiz that is cold and very unfeeling towards them, and you have to really see how each individual character has to use their talents in order to pass these trials. And the trials that these characters go through often feel kind of scarily real. From a televised event causing so much backlash that it sends a character into a deep downward spiral into a very scary place, or on a complete other side of a completely different spectrum, an entire stage play having to get completely rewritten a week before the performance because the original work's author thought it was so shit that she decided to rip the whole thing up, and all the other actors just having to deal with that. It really kind of shows you how crazy of a job it is trying to work your way up the celebrity totem pole. Not just for our heroes here, but also literally everybody else in this business. And that kind of nitty gritty is really cool, especially because they show everybody from basically any kind of way that you can get famous. From idols to actors to manga authors to directors to YouTubers and even VTubers. Everybody's there. And for each one, they show a window into what it's like to actually be any one of those, and I think that's just really cool. But getting back to what I personally like in the manga, just first, every character in there is just really cool, and there's not really one I dislike. Shout out to Kane, she's the GOAT. But also, despite how serious this show can get, as I said earlier, it also knows how to get a little silly and stupid with it, which, I can always appreciate. But if I'm gonna be completely real and completely honest with you, there's just something about this manga I just really can't explain that just keeps you turning every page. Maybe it's the gorgeous art in every single page. Maybe it was just the suspense of the plot stringing me along every single page. Maybe it was waiting to see these characters grow. I don't know what it was, but I've been reading this shit since chapter fucking 1, and I haven't stopped reading it weekly ever since. Maybe it's just good enough that you gotta watch it yourself, because it's about time that you stopped watching me.